This is the Barry Richards Show. WBSM On Demand.
Without further ado,
WBSM presents The Barry Richards Show. Streaming live on WBSM.com and the WBSM app. Call 508-996-0500. Text us using App Chat on the WBSM app. Now, The Barry Richards Show.
And a very good afternoon. Brian in for Barry today. It's a Friday. Boy, didn't we get off to a shaky start. I didn't feel it. I have felt many of earthquake in my day. Many earthquakes, not many earthquake. Many earthquakes in my day. I did not feel this one. But if you did, is that your first one? I've gone through a couple of small ones. Yeah, I felt the one that we had during the crisis called pandemic. It was an early Sunday morning bolt. You know, I have different names for earthquakes. Bolt would mean like big rumble, like a low rider going down the street. That was the big one during the World Series in 1989. That was a real, that was a rumbler. The low rider was right, it was right next to my window. Next thing you know, 7.9 earthquake. We heard it was 8.3. It eventually went down to 7.9. Nice big fiver where somebody died right around the corner from where we were sleeping that night. My then girlfriend and we were down in L.A., and boy, that kind of woke up everybody. At any rate, welcome to the Barry Richards Show. I'm Brian. I did not feel the earthquake. You probably did. Doesn't matter. The temperature pretty much stayed the same. Dartmouth, 42 degrees. Lakeville, 48. New Bedford, 43. Thanks to South Coast Towing, it's the WBSM app on your smartphone. Everything is pretty much the same. A little bit of an earthquake. People are still going about their business. And you should. It's a Friday. We're heading into the weekend. We have a skeletal crew right here. Ariel's doing a little extra time. She'll be with us at the top of the hour with another update. But what's going on today? April 5, 2024. And before I even get into that, I want to move back just a little bit. Thank you, Bill O'Reilly, for your little piece, that something you may not know kind of piece, very similar to what I stated yesterday. You gave more credence to what I brought up about Dr. King's assassination and James Earl Ray. But where did the money come from, you know? And didn't we learn that during Watergate? Of course we did. At any rate, on this date, April 5th, it is Bell Bottoms Day. I have to admit, I was big into the bells, the flares. I like those kind of pants. I wish they would really come back. I know you can still get some flares every once in a while, and you can go to these exotic type shops to get big bells. Bell Bottoms Day. First Contact Day. Not quite sure. I know it's not contact lenses, because if it was, it would say contact lenses. First contact. If you're a first-time caller to the show, 508-996-0500. Go for Broke Day. Go for Broke Day. Not bad. This one is interesting. Necessary, interesting, the way it was written up. I put them together. They were listed separately, Gold Star Spouses and Gold Star Wives Day. Both of them are today, and it should be like that. They just like if you're going to do a Brother's Day, also do Brothers and Sisters Day together. Mother's Day, Father's Day, Parents' Day. Make it a little bit easier. Save families a little bit of money. Hospital Admitting Clerks Day. They do a tough job. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Do we give them a day? I mean, aren't they similar to what a receptionist does? More or less your triage type person. Don't want to take anything away from the work that they do, but is it really that hard? Not that I want to sit down and do it, but do they need their own day? Hospital Admitting Clerks Day. Do they need their own day? No. International Day of Conscience Day. I guess. Kids Yoga Day. Now, here's one of those actually listed separately, should just be one, because there was a national and an international Kids Yoga Day. Just call it Kids Yoga Day. National Caramel Day. National Dandelion Day. National Deep Dish Pizza Day. Really? I don't eat pizza. Deep dish is the same as no crust, that thin crust kind of stuff. Just, it's got cheese on it. No, thank you. Flash Drive Day. Flash Drive Day. Flash drives are great. I have one either in my pocket or in my bag. They come in handy, but do we have to have a day for the flash drive? Is there a hard drive day? Flash drive day. Raisin and Spice Bar Day. Welcome to that. Raisin and Spice Bar. Walk to Work Day. The way it was raining yesterday, absolutely not. Today, not too bad. Walk to Work Day. Read a roadmap day. How many people even use, the old Rand McNally maps? I used to use them if I didn't know where I was going, instead of going out and getting a GPS. I remember when I was driving a cab, I picked up a bunch of kids, high schoolers, junior high, that age. And we're going down the street and they were asking me about the job, and they wanted to know if the company gave me the GPS. And I said, no, it's my own GPS in case I need it. But quite frankly, I very rarely have to use a GPS. I just have learned the city streets. They can't give you a GPS? Oh man, that's the age group. Those kids right now, they're in their 20s. They need a GPS. A lot of people, even a lot of cab drivers, they love that GPS. Just in case, go out and get a map. Don't you know? Do they teach map reading anymore? Or is it all artificial intelligence? I want to go from 22 Sconneconeck Road to 414 Wareham Road in Mattapoisett. That kind of stuff. At any rate, that's what it is. Read a roadmap day instead of having somebody print it out for you. And Student Government Day. I have some questions about students in real government. What I mean, like student representative on the school committee, student representative, if there is such a thing, on town councils or or the city council. No. Kids are kids. Let them be kids. Instead of trying to make them grow up, well, the kids want and you ever notice when you read in the substandard, they're all too willing to tell you what the kid on the school, on the council, what they want. Oh, they want more pizza in the cafeteria. Of course they want more stuff. They're not paying for it. Now there's talk about, well, let's make them a permanent member, voting member, and it just gets a little too ridiculous. On this date in 1768, the very first U.S. Chamber of Commerce hatched in New York City. Where else? Of course, New York, the Big Apple. Before there's even a United States, we had a U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now, how does that work? 1768, let's see. 1776 is when the Declaration of Independence was written. 1775, April 19th to be very exact, is the beginning of the Revolutionary War. So how can it be the U.S. Chamber of Commerce in 1768? That's a question I'm asking. You probably saying, what's the big deal? Well, if you're calling it the U.S. Chamber of Commerce and there's no United States at that particular time, how could it be the U.S. Chamber of Commerce? Oh, semantics. I'm sorry. Isn't that part of the problem that we're having here in the United States? We can't tell a man from a woman from a man. Whatever. I didn't look it up. I had the time, I just didn't do it. But on this particular date in 1792, President Washington, he vetoed a bill for the very first time. I can only imagine what that bill was for. It might have been some type of spending appropriations that he had to veto. Wonder what it was about. If anybody has the time and inclination, by all means, look it up. What did George think was so worthy that he needed to veto it? Thanks to Monthly Fee RX, we have your quote of the day. If you're spending less than $20 a month for prescription drugs, great. If not, monthlyfeerx.com might be a good option for you. A lot of people have already started to respond to this one from Betty Davis. Gay liberation? I ain't against it. It's just that there's nothing in it for me. I kind of agree with her. I'm not against it, but I don't want it shoved in my face. And I understand how gay people would feel that they don't want heterosexualism shoved in their face. I get it. Let people be people. They don't have to be in the closet. But there's nothing in it for me. And as I look at schools, for instance, how often do we see it thrown in our face? I'm talking about the sexual agenda. Now, there are people that want it. I get it. Let them have it. But also have maybe an entirely different school without it. If the government system believes that it's so important that heavy sexualization is a part of the curriculum and you've got plenty of parents that don't believe that way, then let's have another school for those folks. Same thing dealing with folks that believe that they are female, that are really biologically male, playing in female sports. Maybe we need to set aside an arena where folks like that can play against other folks like that. I don't know if there are enough people to field a team, but I can certainly understand how there are women that are upset that have worked very hard, and because of physical limitations, they can't compete against men who mentally believe that they are women. And I don't want to take that away from the men who feel like that. But when it comes to track and field and many other sports, field hockey, you know, the man, at least right now, has a more powerful shot than a woman. The man can run faster most of the time than a woman. You know, when you do that, you've got 10 people running. 8 out of 10 times, the guy is going to beat the woman. So let's do what I believe would be the correct thing in that situation. And all right, if there are women who want to participate in that sport, where folks that are guys who believe they're women, and it goes both ways. I'm saying it the way that most people bring it up to me. It shouldn't be all right for guys who think they're women to play in a girls' sport, on a girls' team. Same thing with the locker room. If you need to, have a third locker room. But don't force women to shower and change with men right there in front of them. Now, there's some women who don't care. All right, fine. But I have to tell you, most of the girls/women that I talk to, they do care. Sometimes they grin and bear it, but they don't like it. That's what I mean about forcing the issue. So when we go back to Betty Davis, gay liberation, I ain't against it. It's just that there's nothing in it for me. I get what she was saying in that particular case. All right, let's hear from you. 508-996-0500. We started it off with, of course, the earthquake. 4.8. But if you don't know much about it, 4.8 on Ricky's scale. It was centered in New Jersey, about the central part of the state of New Jersey. Nothing, from what I understand, broke. No serious damage down in that area. But folks in Freetown and folks in Fairhaven are saying that they felt that earthquake. I didn't feel it. We didn't, at this radio station, nobody that I know of felt the earthquake. But did you? 508-996-0500. We often talk about money issues here. And if you're looking locally, folks that live in the city of New Bedford that pay a local property tax, or you might not know that you pay that local property tax in your rent, your landlord eventually ends up paying that local property tax, but she or he is making sure that they're paying as little of that as possible, meaning they pass it on to you, the tenant. So I'm going to come up with a figure. This won't all come from New Bedford, although we don't really know how much will come from New Bedford. $500 million. That is the estimated cost of building a new New Bedford high school. $500 million. Now, you might be saying, a new New Bedford high school? What's wrong with the one we already have? Well, the one that is there now is getting ready to wrap up its 52nd year of operation. Actually, yeah, 52nd year of operation. It opened in 1972. But the question has to be asked. Is it time to replace New Bedford High School? Are the finances there locally and statewide? I mean, the state has to take a lot of the money that they were going to use for schools for the migrants. And you might say, well, some of the migrants will end up in the school. Yeah, that's true. But they're also going to end up in Boston schools, maybe Dartmouth schools, Revere schools, Lowell schools. They're going to end up in a lot of schools. Mayor Mitchell, the new superintendent, O'Leary, they believe that within the next 10 years, so 10 years would be what? 34? There's going to have to be a new New Bedford High School. So where do you put it? Do you put it where the old middle school used to be? Up in that football field, all-purpose field? Where are you going to put it? If you have that much space for a new high school, well, you might want to think about housing because the city needs housing. And what about replacing some of the elementary schools that's been talked about that really don't need to be replaced? One of the things in reading the story at New Bedford Light that, caught my attention was, well, we have to think about the fact that we're losing students. Are we losing students because we have an old building? Never thinking you're losing students because of the crap that you're teaching. But apparently a new building, it'll be like a magnet and attract the steel of students and parents to go to the new school. We are in that crunch era that I've been talking about. The state's looking for money. And you've got the city looking to ask for money. I heard McCarthy talking about it. He's absolutely correct in that the Community Preservation Act, City of New Bedford, they're out there looking for your tax receipts. I shouldn't call them tax receipts. They're looking for your receipts from property transactions, real estate property transactions within the city of New Bedford, so they can preserve land. My colleague spoke of the old theater down in the South End about making that into a Cape Verdean cultural center. Once again, nothing against Cape Verdeans. A lot of people think that I am a Cape Verdean person. But I would say if a project like that is really important, really special, come up with the money and buy the building and redo it yourselves. Make a profit on the deal. That seems to, out of many of the things that I talk about, it seems that the real profit motive is being taken away. Now, I know that there are these private-public partnerships, and usually the people on the private side, they make out like bandits. But the reason why they are private-public partnerships is because the private sector knows they wouldn't make any money on their own if they were to fund it themselves, if they were to go out and get financing themselves. So what they do is they go to governments and try to get grants or very inexpensive loans that they can somehow pay off 20 years down the road. To me, that takes away from what the United States of America is really supposed to be about. We are a capitalist nation. There's no stamp out there that says, hey, we're the capitalist. But that's what we're supposed to be. The railroads way back when they started, they were pure capitalistic operations. It didn't take too long before government financing started to get involved. And then when that financing started to beef up just a little bit, all of a sudden you had railroad companies buying out other railroad companies with that money. This is what's happening. This is what's happening here in the United States of America, and it's been going on since at least the 1700s. It was nickel and dime back then, but it's at major proportions right now. We talked a little bit yesterday about Haiti and the fact that a couple of $100 million of our tax dollars are being used to help fund Kenya, the country of Kenya, the African nation of Kenya. Why? Because they're broke. And what do they have to do? Why did the leader of Kenya accept the deal? Because his nation is broke. What was their end of the deal? What did Kenya have to do? They had to send about 100 troops, military-type people with weapons to Haiti because the United States doesn't want to send U.S. troops. And quite frankly, I don't want our troops down there. But at the same time, I don't see why our tax dollars have to go to Kenya. Federal tax dollars that could be used for veterans, federal tax dollars that could come back to the people. So the Biden administration or the Trump administration or the Obama administration or the Bush administration before that or the Clinton administration before that, you name your administration. So folks wouldn't have to go begging to the government to save them from student loans. Your tax dollars are funding, $200 million, not much. It's less than, 3 months of supporting the migrants here in Massachusetts would cost. But $200 million, that should not be going in that direction. We talked about the Marshall Plan the other day, $2 billion to fix up 16 European countries. By the way, if I recall correctly, the United States was dragged in to World War II courtesy of the Japanese. And when we declared war against the Japanese, Mr. Hitler declared war against the United States because he had an alliance with Japan. So all the bombing that we did in Dresden and many other German cities, we ended up fixing 16 European countries. 16. $2 billion. Now, I'm not here to say that those countries didn't need repair. How much money do you think is going to end up going to Gaza when eventually the war between Israel and I'm going to say the Gazans is over? No matter who wins. And you notice Israel is not sending troops back into Gaza anymore. Doesn't do them any good. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. They do send them into hospitals. They shoot up people in hospitals. But other than that, they're not sending troops in because they've been getting picked off like you wouldn't believe. I digress. But no, I don't. Because billions of your tax dollars and my tax dollars have been going to fund what Israel is doing. Just the other day, they picked off 3 different vehicles, they being Israel, picked off 3 different vehicles of aid workers, killing them. Your tax dollars. Don't you ever get the feeling that somehow, some way, that's going to come back to haunt us? It might not be anything horrific like 9/11, but don't you get the feeling payback is going to be a bitch? But here's what I find. I find that a lot of people just don't care because they look at Hamas and they see terrorist. They don't look at Hamas like they look at a Jefferson, a Franklin, Sam or John Adams, Paul Revere for whatever ride he took. They see those people as freedom fighters. They don't look at Hamas as freedom fighters. They don't look at the Palestinians as being worthy enough to have their freedom. They do look at Israel and say, well, Israel deserves their freedom. Why do you think that is? What shade of lens are you using? I know I'm scaring you, but somehow, some way, the truth has to come out. This is our tax dollars. Money that you're saying, wow, if I had this money back, I could afford to send my children, grandchildren to college or maybe private school so they wouldn't have to put up with a lot of the crap that goes on in the regular monopoly-oriented schools. Money that you could use to pay off your other debt. Money that you can say, I can retire on. A nation that is, I'm just going to be real kind about this, $34 trillion in debt with an interest payment that isn't always manageable. And our tax dollars are flying all over the globe. Your thoughts, 508-996-05. Might want to go to the WBSM app. Architect Managed IT Services is going to give you another choice to win cash next